Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Much Ado About Film podcast with me, Celeste.
And me, Grace?
And today we're going to be talking about two of Tarantino's movies. We're talking about Jackie Brown, and we're talking about his latest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We'll start with Jackie Brown. What was your initial reaction to it? Like, did you enjoy it? Did you not?
I I really enjoyed it. So,
Mhm.
confession, I've never seen a Quentin Tarantino film, which is very embarrassing as a writer
Yeah.
who loves films, but I just never have. So, Jackie Brown I watched first, and so that was my introduction to Tarantino. I know of like his style and I've read about him and like Pulp Fiction and all that stuff, but I've never watched one. And it was very different to what I was expecting. But after researching it, I see that it's not really his usual vibe.
No.
So that was interesting from an outsider's perspective. But I really enjoyed it. Love Jackie as a character. Love her so much.
Yeah.
Um, Played by Pam Grier?
Yeah, I believe so.
Incredible. Love Max Cherry, the bail bondsman.
Yeah.
And obviously Samuel L. Jackson. I always love Samuel L. Jackson and everything he does.
Mm.
So overall, really enjoyed it. Just was not what I was expecting.
No, it wasn't what I was expecting either. Especially because what um intrigued me about this film was the synopsis, and that's very much it implies a lot of double crossing, which there is,
Mm.
but a lot of that double crossing doesn't actually happen until the very end of the movie.
Yeah, I did think the pacing was interesting,
Yes, that's what I
which
struggled with.
was very like at the beginning, I was the first thing you see, like the first shot of Jackie Brown walking into work and all that stuff. Great. Loved that. Then she disappears for like half an hour and we don't see her again. And I thought this film was about Jackie Brown, who's this guy. That was
Mm.
all very strange. And it just seemed to take a while to get into the story.
Yeah, because I'm going to be honest, while I did enjoy the end result, it took me about an hour and 40 minutes to actually get into it, which
Yeah.
is unusual. Well, I mean, I haven't seen a ton of Tarantino's films. I've seen both volumes of Kill Bill, and I've seen first 20 to 30 minutes of Inglourious Basterds. And his films are, they're not always necessarily the quickest, but the pacing is definitely a lot quicker than this one. This one felt very leisurely in
Hmm.
its pacing.
I did like the cinematography of it,
Hmm.
the style of it. Rob Richards, I believe, was the cinematographer on this one. He also is on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It wouldn't surprise me because Tarantino
Hmm.
does tend to work with the same people, like rework work with the same
Yeah,
creatives from project to project.
but I liked all of the long shots. Yeah, Robert Richardson, that's who it is. Um, I liked the long shots, the tracking shots, particularly lots of tracking shots on Jackie Brown when she's wandering about.
Mm.
I found it interesting how most of it is very linear when something that I have found before I watched any Tarantino is that he likes to do some wacky things with his narrative structure. Like Pulp Fiction, obviously, is mad.
As is
Um,
Reservoir Dogs as well. That's all that order, quite famously.
Whereas Jackie Brown, for the most part, until you get to like the money exchange in the
Mm.
mall, it's all just kind of linear. It jumps around perspectives, but other than that, it's quite straightforward, really.
Yeah,
Oh, I looked at, I was thinking about the themes and how I was noting down the core themes, and a lot of it is about growing old,
yeah,
which I think is very interesting when we're watching it compared to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which has a similar
yes,
theme.
yes, it does.
Um, But yeah, I found that interesting of Jackie trying to find herself some financial security after a life of kind of hardships and not really going anywhere. I mean, she seems content in her life, but she clearly wants something more than being a stewardess on a low budget airline.
Yeah. I think it's because she doesn't feel like she's appreciated properly. Like she clearly is someone who works very hard and she's very
Yeah,
intelligent, but for how smart she is, because of a couple of wrong turns with the law, it's kind of screwed her over. Um,
yeah.
and it's interesting because Tarantino apparently grew up in a lot of black neighborhoods when he was
Oh,
young.
okay.
And so it does make me wonder if he's met quite a few people who, due to racism, has been screwed over
Hmm.
by the police and stuff and have not really properly got had like a chance to get a foot on the ladder kind of thing.
Interesting thing I found out when I was researching about Jackie Brown is this idea that it's an homage to the kind of black exploitation
Yes.
genre, which I had honestly never heard of before this. Um, and for anyone who doesn't know, it's a term for a genre of films made particularly in the 70s that largely featured and were made for black actors and black audiences. Um, and a lot of the research says that he was kind of wanted to pay homage to that genre of cinema. So obviously this came out in 97, but it
Yes.
was set in the 70s.
Yes.
And you can really see the aesthetic is very 70s, very stylized for that time. And all of the music is very 70s. Obviously, you've got Jackie Brown with her records.
Hmm.
Um, and Max Cherry asks her why she didn't start using CDs, but she prefers the records and she likes old music, lots of soul and funk music.
Yeah.
Uh, so I really liked how it just felt very 70s. I forgot that it was made in the 90s while I was watching it. In my head, this was a film from the 70s about the 70s, um, which is clearly a sign that it did something right.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, because this is when Tarantino would have been a teenager in the 70s. So a
yeah,
teenager into his maybe his early 20s as well. So well no it wouldn't be. No, it would be teenager. So that's
yeah,
going to be a very influential era for him in terms of nostalgia in the
yeah.
same way I guess that the 2010s would be for us.
Oh,
Which is
that's
a
a weird
which is
thought.
a weird thing to
That's,
think about, but
I
you know
don't
what I
like
mean,
that.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Nostalgia plays a big part in this one and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when we'll get to that obviously, but
Mm.
it's big in both of them. Is that something Tarantino does a lot? I don't, is he quite
Um,
nostalgia driven as a director and writer?
Not it. Well, I mean, Kill Bill isn't, and Inglourious Bastards are not, don't have the same nostalgia vibe
Hmm,
because Kill Bill is
interesting.
set in the 90s when it was
Right.
um slash early noughties, and then the Inglourious Bastards is set during World War Two, so it's not nostalgia tinted. I'm trying to think if there's more of a link between. I know that Tarantino has a lot of love for black culture and also East Asian
Yes.
culture as well because he seems to love lots of martial art movies and which is actually more relevant to the other film we're covering. But
Yeah.
um, so I do know that. But as for nostalgia, I mean, it is clearly a theme that does crop up,
Yeah.
but not in all of his movies.
I also liked how, again, unexpected, I clearly went into this very blind, knowing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, same.
All of the tension in Jackie Brown is pretty much all of it anyway. 99% of the tension is dialogue driven.
Yeah.
It like about the subtext, what people aren't telling each other with all the double crosses, Jackie Brown trying to get her own back from Odell and also the ATF, ATF, AFT, ATF. Um and also, having a nice time with Max Cherry. Like there's clearly a lot of admiration from him to her. Like he grows to admire her quite a lot, and it's kind of her that inspires him to change his job because he doesn't want to do that anymore and he doesn't love it. And I think that's a big part of this film is making your own choices for even if you're in the what this paints as the later stages of life, even though what are they like 40?
She's in her mid 40s, he's in his mid 50s.
Okay. That's still not very old, but
No,
they seem to think that they've got no time left.
but then again, I think Tarantino would have been in his 30s when he made this movie. So,
Ah, so to him it's 10 years. Yeah, fair
yeah.
enough. Um, weird. I always thought of Tarantino as having very violent films. Obviously, that's a big thing. He loves his
What?
massive violence. And
Yeah.
at first, during this film, at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, there's not really any violence." And then three people get shot dead. Two people,
Yeah. But the
three.
interesting thing is you barely see anything though,
Yeah,
which is
like the
very
first,
unusual.
very odd because he likes a bit of gratuitous violence. Does Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah, I think.
It's part of his kind of his own genre.
Mm, well, I do think this is definitely his tamest movie, at least the famous one. There's a couple that I'm not as familiar with, but even them, I'm fairly certain they're a lot more violent. So this, it's, I mean, Tarantino, to be fair, is very famous for his dialogue. I mean, it's part of what
Yes.
made Pulp Fiction as famous and beloved as it is, because it could have easily have become a cult classic, but instead it's one of the most beloved films in cinema
Yeah.
of the 90s. And so, and also Jackie Brown is the film that came directly after Pulp Fiction. So,
Oh, okay. Very
so I do
different.
wonder if part of it is I would assume is him wanting to do slightly different something slightly different, something slightly more character driven rather than action driven. Not to say that his other films aren't also character driven, they are. Um, but
This one
this
particularly
it's
so.
sorry.
This one is particularly character driven.
Yeah, it's like it is a character study first and foremost. But a part of me does wonder, not only does it seems like he wanted to slow down and explore some different kind of genre, but also I do wonder if he was kind of given leeway to do pretty much what he wanted, given that Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction was such a success
Yeah.
that he could then just do a film that maybe wasn't as marketable. I mean, not to say this film isn't marketed, it is, but it doesn't have as strong a hook as some of
Yeah.
his more famous ones.
The first death of the film,
Hmm.
in my opinion, came out of absolutely
Oh my
nowhere.
God. What would I can't remember her
Oh,
name.
on. Oh,
Oh wait, were you talking about hold on. No, right, him. No, that I was expecting.
I wasn't. I expected him to be in it for longer. And then so I had to rewind the film and I was like, that's not Beaumont that he's just shot, is it?
Yeah.
And it obviously was. And I was like, oh, okay. I just feel like that was quite a lot of money to spend on someone you were going to shoot. But understandable, he doesn't want anyone,
Mm.
talking if they get arrested. So then after him, it was who died next? Oh, what's her name? Mel. Mel?
Yeah, that's the one I wasn't expecting because
Neither was I.
because of the way it was shot. Like I don't think you even registered that Robert De Niro's character even had a gun on him,
I didn't see a gun.
and
I did not
because
see a gun.
yeah, and also I've just having a quick look at Letterboxd reviews, and apparently it's a common consensus that people think that Robert De Niro's character was probably the weakest part of the film because his characterization is a bit all over the place in terms of it's a bit inconsistent.
Um,
And so I mean, to me, it didn't bother me too much because it kind of felt like that character was a little mentally unstable. And so him kind of doing something out of nowhere didn't feel too out of the question for me. I mean, it was a bit abrupt, but I think but I think that almost worked because of the way it was shot. That was when I kind of sat up and I mean, I was already, I think from the heist bit was already the bit I was engaged in, but that made me properly sit up and go, hold on a minute, what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and it's interesting that you never actually see her body either
No.
because which I don't mind. I think that was quite tasteful, but Tarantino films are very rarely are tasteful. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like the whole point of his films is it's shock value and it's he doesn't like censoring himself.
No.
He just shows everything, and that's what I think people connect with is the honesty of that in some ways and the harsh
Mm.
reality of it. But it was so it I mean it is so interesting how different this film is from a lot of his other entries.
Yes, sorry. I was now just thinking about if I could have guessed that Robert De Niro had a gun.
No, I don't.
And I don't think I could. I
I mean,
did
it's
see it, and then
plausible,
suddenly
but
it, the shots go off and she drops.
yeah,
But I'm also very confused about the exposition of this film and how everyone knows each other and where everyone has come from. Like, because Robert De Niro's character and Mel, I can't remember the actress's name, um, they say when Samuel L. Jackson goes out for a bit and it's just the two of them at the house,
mm,
he says something along the lines of, um, "Oh, when was the last time we saw each other?" And it was like 6 or 8 years ago or something. How did they know each other? I was just all very confused, but I also feel like maybe that's kind of the point
mm.
because it doesn't really matter. It's just Tarantino's way of saying there's some history here. They're obviously not that close, but they sort of trust each other in a way. And
Yeah,
she trusts him enough to explain that she wants to basically screw over Samuel L. Jackson's character.
well, I think the implication is she's high out of her mind, at least for most of the time. But also, I think there's the implication that she fell into a wrong crowd at a very young age, either through modeling or through, I don't know, taking drugs or whatever. So I think she was probably underage when she met Samuel L. Jackson's character. I think because she's 14 in that modeling photo.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
true.
I'm
That sounds
assuming
very
that
right.
when she first met the other guy, she was a child, because I think she's in like her late 20s, early 30s. Is the implication like she's getting, because I think Samuel L. Jackson's character makes comment about her not being as pretty or a bit past it and
Yeah.
stuff.
He's
Um,
also got, again, I can't remember her name, when he's listing off all the other girls that he's got relationships or whatever with around the city,
yeah,
he's got a 19-year-old. As soon as he said that, I was uncomfortable.
yeah. I
I
mean,
was not happy with that.
yeah. I mean, I think that's the point is to paint him as this
Yeah.
shitty guy. I mean, because he is a gun smuggler, so
Yeah. But never once do we really see that's kind of mostly irrelevant for the film. I know that's the reason that the police are after him, but we don't see any of that really.
no.
Which that, they could have made him a drug dealer. There were drugs involved, but I guess they wanted something a bit more high stakes, like an arms dealer. But it is very interesting the way that Tarantino shows all of their different relationships because Samuel L. Jackson, Odell, clearly trusts absolutely no one. He's
Oh yeah,
constantly testing everyone around him to test their loyalty to him, like all of the time. He is paranoid. He is on his guard 24/7, which I don't blame him because everyone has their own game that they're playing in this film. Like Jackie Brown wants to not go to prison, get away with some money, start a new life.
I
It is Odell, isn't it? Or is it Ordell?
think it's Odell.
Okay. Suddenly second guess myself. He wants to get his money back and not go to prison and not have anyone rat him out to the police. Mel wants to screw him over.
Yeah, I think she's.
Lewis, I don't really know what he's doing, trying to get a deal with Samuel L. Jackson's character,
Well, I think
getting business with him.
he went to prison for some sort of
Yeah,
armed
bank
robbery, and they
robbery.
used to be
Yeah,
friends. So I think he's doing him a favor by giving him some place to
I
stay.
see.
And is just caught up in it because of that. I mean, well, that I think that's the interesting thing about this film is it doesn't really explain, or it gives you hints. And so in one case, you could argue they're maybe not as fleshed out as they could be, but in another sense, at the very least, Tarantino doesn't feel the need to over-explain anything or
Yeah.
spoon feed you any information. Because I think I don't think I really need any more information about the characters necessarily.
No, probably not. And also, it links quite nicely to the fact that none of these characters really have the full picture of what's going on
Yes.
because
Well,
they're
except
all
for,
lying to each other.
I mean, one could argue that maybe Jackie knows a bit more than everyone else, but even she doesn't know
True.
everything.
Yeah, this is very true. Um, but because none of them really know the full picture, I guess if we as an audience also don't have the full picture of like who everyone is, where they've come from, what their backgrounds are, how they know each other, then it puts us in the same kind of situation as the characters, which is always nice and immersive.
Hmm. I mean, it's funny because I mean we see Jackie screw over Odell. We also see her screw over Michael Keaton's cop character. But
Oh, yeah.
the interesting thing is, I assume she was also then going to screw over Max as well, only for that not to be the case, which I think is probably the twist at the end. Like, I think Tarantino is trying to lead you down the path to assume she's gonna screw over all three and just run off by herself, but instead she tries to get him to come with her.
I didn't expect her to screw over Max. I saw them ending the film with, well, if it was a basically if it had been anyone else but Tarantino, I would have expected them to ride off into the sunset together with all their money and go live happily ever after. As much as I've never seen one of his films before, I knew it wasn't going to be as conventional as
Mm.
that. Um, but obviously Max at the end, um, he has that person call him, doesn't he, about a bail bond, and he
Mm.
says, "I'll call you back." So his ending is kind of left open, and a lot of it is quite open ended because we don't know where any of them really end up, but
Mm.
we know that they have definitely changed since that their circumstances have all changed since the beginning, especially the ones who have died.
Yeah, I mean, I read it as quite a bittersweet ending because I think
Yeah,
because it's clear that Max quickly changes his mind when he's on the phone and realizes actually maybe he should go with her and take a risk for once.
yeah.
Because as much as he is taking a risk breaking the law in his personal life, he's not. And I think at this point he's in his life, he's a bit tired and he wants to do something new. And so he sees this Jackie, who I think I mean, he at the very least has a crush on. I mean, whether or not he fully falls in love with her is up to interpretation, but he's definitely infatuated with her. And
I mean, all of the close-ups, pulling close-ups on the two of
mm,
them. I mean, come on, there is something there.
oh, absolutely. But it was, I think for me, it was just whether or not Jackie was taking him for a ride because she was doing a very similar thing with the other two men, with Samuel L. Jackson and Michael Keaton, where she was clearly there was chemistry between all three of the, if that makes sense. And so it was
Yeah,
clear to us as the audience that she was leading those two on. But what wasn't clear is
that's
whether or not she was doing it to all three, which is what I assumed, which is
that is
interesting that you read
very
it differently.
interesting. I did not see any chemistry with her and Samuel L. Jackson
But
at all.
there was a little bit. I mean, not in terms of like romance, but in terms of him clearly holding some sort of influence over her,
Yes,
if that makes
true,
sense. Like
true.
whether or not some of that was sexual favors, I don't know. But that was
No idea.
that's the way I took that. Like I didn't think that they were like in a romantic relationship or
Yeah,
anything. But
okay. I was gonna say I did
no,
not
no,
read that at all.
no.
Okay. No, I did find it very, her as a character as well. I feel like we need to take a minute for that because she is so smart. She
Yeah,
is so resourceful. She is so independent. She can do whatever she wants, really. She just knows how to get things done. And I think that's really interesting because at its core, this film is a crime drama, basically.
yeah,
And in this era particularly, that's quite rare for a female lead of a crime drama.
especially a
She's not
heist.
quite yeah, exactly, really femme fatale. She's dangerous because she knows what she's doing, but she's not that way. It's just so interesting how she is the main character. I mean, it's literally her film, and I feel like she's really in control for most of it. Lots of people are trying to get her to do what they want, like the police and Samuel L. Jackson, trying to get her to be on their side, do what they want her to do. But she's like, no, I don't want to. I'm going to take this money. I'm going to go to Madrid.
Yeah,
And
but
I like that about her a lot.
yeah, and it's interesting because like if you look at all of Tarantino's other female leads or co-leads, most of them are white. Most of them fall into the femme fatale category. They're also almost always 30 or younger as well. Which is so interesting because you look at like the bride of a woman desiring of revenge, and it's interesting because like all of or most of Tarantino's female characters fall solidly into the femme fatale trope
Mm.
in that they're physically strong, they can beat you up, they're incredibly intelligent but also very seductive. And I think there are elements of that in Jackie. I mean, she does hold Samuel L. Jackson at gunpoint and slap at least one person at some point. But I think it might have been him as well. But she's not like violence is not her first option. Violence
No.
she resorts to when to defend herself if she has to, but she's not going in solidly to attack people. Like she thinks things through. She's a lot more calculated.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and she sits back and lets other people do the dirty work for her as well. Which is it's definitely a change of pace, which I find really interesting, and it's funny to me how Tarantino hasn't really done that with any other of his films,
Yeah, I think
as far as I can tell.
might just be, I'm just thinking of this now, and feel free to disagree. She feels more like she's such a strong female character. She feels more like a woman written by a woman because she's not written like if you look at the era of the
Mm.
70s specifically, um a lot of the female characters would have been written as more like accessories for the men as opposed to strong characters in their own right. Whereas I feel like she doesn't, I don't feel like I'm viewing her through the male gaze, despite it being written and directed by a man.
Yeah, and it's funny how Mel, on the other hand, absolutely is.
Yes.
Like you
Oh,
look at the
100%.
difference, it's almost like Tarantino can only respect a woman when he's not attracted to her, almost. I wonder.
Maybe.
Maybe that's the thing. Not, I mean, that sounds really harsh towards Jackie Brown as a character. That's not the way I mean it at all. But I do put I
What do
do.
you mean? Because she doesn't fit the conventionally attractive, younger,
Well, I mean, I
leggy
think.
blonde woman?
Well, I
I think she's
mean,
attractive.
so do I.
I think she's gorgeous, but
Yeah,
she is obviously older, and so the
and
convention
she's
would
not
be
white as well as the other
she's not
thing.
white,
So I
and
mean,
whereas the convention of Mel, the younger, blonde, leggy girl,
yeah, I'm
that's
assuming she
like
has
the
blue eyes. Yeah,
probably
exactly. So I wonder if that comes into it. I don't know. That's
maybe
just throwing that out there. But
that's interesting. I hadn't considered that.
then again, I had a look at because I always look at have a quick look on Wikipedia at different people, and you look at the people that Tarantino's dated over the years, and he doesn't just date white people, so that's probably a load of rubbish. So,
Well, he clearly has quite a lot of respect for
oh yeah,
black culture, obviously, like you said. And Samuel L. Jackson is in so many of his movies. And obviously having a film based around um a black woman is clearly not prejudicial, but it might be that he's like, well, this woman isn't conventionally attractive, but she is strong, she is resourceful, she is the protagonist.
mm,
I don't know, but I love her as a main character.
yeah, I do.
Um, she was the best part of the film, hands down.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, her and Max as well, love them together.
I do. I guess my one criticism would be that I think it's a bit too long.
Yes,
I
I agree, hands down.
it like some of those scenes could have been trimmed just a little bit, like not
Yeah,
loads, but
the pacing could have been improved. Am I saying I could write a better film than Quentin Tarantino? Absolutely not. However, I feel he could have made some different choices. But that was the only thing. When I Googled it to see how long it would be, and it said it was 2.5 hours,
yeah,
I thought, okay, so this is going to be like action packed, fast paced. It's going to be great. There's crime, there's police. I'm excited. Let's go. And then it was so slow for the first half. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
cool. Gotta keep watching. I think if I would have finished it, even if we weren't doing it for the podcast, I probably would have had to pause it halfway through, do
and come
something
back.
else, and then go
Yeah,
back to it
absolutely. I mean,
instead of watching it in one go.
I think you will like the Kill Bill films though, because they are long but fast paced.
Okay,
So
well, I will put them on my list.
sure,
I also need to do Pulp Fiction, clearly, because it's a
same,
classic.
same. Right, so
So,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I remember when it came out in 2019, loads of people were raving about it, and yet I
yes,
didn't really know what it was about until I started watching it.
I started watching it, and even halfway through, didn't really know what it was about. So, I did a quick Google of it before I watched it. Not to give myself any spoilers, but just to see what I was getting myself in for, see how long it was, all of that stuff. What the synopsis didn't tell me was so much, so many things.
Yes.
I thought going into this was a film about an actor who's not as relevant anymore, kind of in his decline. What's he gonna do? And it's him and his best friend, his stuntman. And I was like, cool, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, I'm in.
Yeah, that's what I thought this was about.
The Manson family appears.
Yes.
And from that point on, I was very confused, to be honest. I came away from this film thinking, what on earth have I just watched?
Well, I remember back when we did, this was taking us back almost a couple of years ago now, when we did the iconic screen characters module at university. I wrote one of my essays on Macbeth, and the film versions of Macbeth that I did were the Orson Welles version from the 1940s and the Roman Polanski version, because they wouldn't neither of them would have been my first choice, but it was because they were the only two that I could find more than one academic source on, which was important for grading and stuff. Um, and so I remember reading a small amount of about Polanski. I mean, I knew about some of the allegations and things he's been convicted for, but what I'd forgotten until I re-Googled him as soon as his name was mentioned was the fact that his wife was murdered by the Manson family.
Yeah,
Sharon Tate, who is played by Margot Robbie in this film.
absolutely insane. So, for anyone who doesn't remember, again, huge spoilers for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but this was 6 years ago now. Um, but basically, it's set in 1969, and kind of what would happen if uh the Manson family had been stopped from killing Sharon Tate and the rest of the people in her house,
Yes.
which in itself, weird concept, interesting concept, alternate reality type thing,
Hmm.
very cool. That doesn't really come into play in the film until at least halfway through, when you realize what some weird stuff is going on with this cult on a ranch.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what's so interesting about this film is, as well as the nostalgia and everything, it's the blend of reality and unreality. Because about halfway through this film, when they introduced Sharon and the Manson family, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be like a true crime thing. Because no one is 100% sure why the Manson family targeted that house. That's still a mystery. So I assumed, oh, so it's going to be that those two guys pissed off the Manson family and then they went to the wrong house and killed Sharon instead. That's what I thought this was going. I thought it was going to be like
Oh,
a kind of conspiracy theory take of, this is what might have happened kind of thing, which is not where it goes at all, which is the twist, I guess, right at the end, where she actually survives.
but then it doesn't show you any of what happened after. If you're subverting history and saying, oh, what if this big event didn't happen? We
Yeah,
then don't know what happens after that in this alternate reality. We
no,
don't see what happens to Sharon Tate, what she does with the rest of her life, all of that kind of thing. Don't see what happens to the Mansons after that in this reality.
no,
It's all very ambiguous. That was a big part of this film, is that it was all quite vague about a lot of things.
yeah. I mean,
Because it's never explicitly said, oh, hi, my name's Charles Manson. You don't meet Charles Manson. Well, you do very
you
briefly,
do very
but
briefly.
doesn't say his name, does not. There is nothing that says anything about them being the Mansons.
But then again, that family, there's been a lot of studies on them. There's been a lot of documentaries, some
Mm.
movies and things about them. So I think they're almost a kind of horror movie myth at this point in some
Mm.
ways because I mean that was another thing that I was thinking when I was watching this is that it's a movie of three, it's like three very different movies in one, right? Because you've got, well, almost four actually, because you've got the Mansons are clearly in some kind of cult horror movie, right? You've got um you've got Rick who's going through like is an emotional melodrama, like Oscar bait melodrama. Then you've got Cliff who's in some kind of martial arts movie, which is very much the usual Tarantino style. And
Yeah.
then you've got like Sharon just minding her own business, having the time of her life. Just
Seeing
it's
as
like
she is played by the Margot Robbie,
yeah,
she's not in it all that much.
no,
And what she is in, I actually loved her character, by the way. Even before I realized she was a real person. Um, then I did a little bit of research afterwards. But when she goes and sits in the movie theater to watch that film that she's in, her face and the excitement when everyone laughs at what she does on the screen and, cheers for her when she beats up that other woman, all of that stuff. I loved her character so much. Um, but she doesn't really have a storyline in this film. She's just kind of there.
yeah. I mean, a part of me does wonder if this film would have been actually slightly, or I would have liked this film a bit more if it had just been about Rick and Cliff, because I think for me that half of the story is the most compelling part. I think. Uh, Especially around Cliff, because I mean, his character, because he doesn't really exist. His, I think Rick's character is basically a metaphor for the decline of the Western movie,
Yes. Yeah.
because it was the end of the golden age of Westerns and musicals, where people wanted something a bit more realistic, rather than escapism. Plus, there've been so many good Westerns that people are starting to run
Yeah.
out of ideas. And part of me wonders because, like, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the two films that Tarantino released before this one were Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight, both of which are either full westerns or have elements of western as their
Yeah.
genre. And while they both did well critically, neither of them did well in the box office.
Mhm.
And so I do wonder if there's a little bit of that resentment in there in parts of like how westerns are not being appreciated in the way they should be in Hollywood.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the nostalgia and vintage aspect
Mm,
of this film, particularly even more so than in Jackie Brown. That felt very, this is just a realistic portrayal of what the 70s were like. That's fine, it's not even that relevant. Whereas this is obviously so important with the period authenticity, and it's so beautifully shot with the lighting, like the golden hour sunlight, the wide shots of LA, the vintage cars, the neon signs, all of that kind of stuff. It was even more period immersive than Jackie Brown, which was already very authentically 70s.
yeah.
And that's something I loved about this film. And again, huge theme of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, same as Jackie Brown, is aging. Because
Mm,
Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton,
yes.
obviously an aging actor. I don't can't remember how old he's meant to be. Is he 30s? In his 30s?
No, he's older than that. But
Older than that in this one?
I don't think they really make it clear. But I don't think
No,
it
just that
really
he's
matters.
no, just that he's kind of his career's on the decline. He's guest starring in TV shows. He's not the leading man in anything
Mm.
anymore. And he's just having this huge existential crisis, which, as much as it shouldn't be funny and it should be very sad, watching Leonardo DiCaprio burst into tears every 5 minutes was oddly funny.
Yeah.
It
But
was really
I
entertaining.
mean, I bought the performance, but I think I guess there's a certain amount of irony to it because as much as I do sympathize with that character, it's immediately juxtaposed with Cliff, who is
Oh
clearly
yeah,
having a much worse time, but is totally unbothered by it. Like, I think that's intentional because it is supposed to be a comedy action film. Like, it's supposed to be
yeah.
funny.
It's supposed to be funny, and it is funny. It's so funny. I laughed out loud at a lot of a lot of points in the film. But I do think the duality here between Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth, yeah, Cliff Booth. Cliff has accepted that he's a stuntman. That's his life. He doesn't get much money, but that's his life. He lives in his is like a little trailer caravan thing
Yeah,
with his dog. He has his routine. He's satisfied with
mm,
where he's at,
for the
really.
most part, yeah.
Whereas Rick is so ambitious and he just wants to pull back his career and keep going.
Well, I think,
But that's not really how it works.
yeah, but I also think it says a lot about the two characters. I remember, I think it's Cliff is talking to Margaret Qualley's character in the car, and or is it just before she gets in the car, and she asks him what he does, or is if he's an actor, and he's like, no, and she's like, well, you're quite good looking for a stuntman. And I think that's this
Yeah,
distinction, because I think Cliff could have been an actor if he'd wanted to. I think that's the implication. But the point is that Cliff didn't want to be an actor. He doesn't care about the fame or the notoriety. In fact, I don't think he really likes the idea of it. Whereas
no.
for Rick, that's all that really drives him. He doesn't actually care about being a good actor. Not really. He cares about being loved. That's the difference.
And he kind of gets that. If you move to like the final bit of the film when he's going up to Sharon Tate's house and everyone's like, "Oh my God, I remember seeing," and it's his Sharon Tate's friend Jay, I think, that he meets at the gate
Yeah,
just after the Manson family all die, which we'll get to in a minute because that was insane. Not all of them obviously, but the three that went to kill them.
yeah,
Um he's talking to Jay and he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw you in this film," and they know who he is and they're excited to meet him, and so he got what he wanted out of it. And he went to Italy, made his four spaghetti westerns where
yeah.
he was the leading man.
During
He
the
got
it,
beautiful wife. He's set. He's happy. I mean, he doesn't have that much money because he said he's going to have to sell his house, but he's moving forward in his career or has done, and so
yeah,
he's happy with that.
but and I think it's a commentary on how quickly the tide can change either way in Hollywood. You know, you
Yeah,
can fall from grace one day and then get a resurgence the next without really doing anything. It's all about luck and just who you happen to talk to. But I also think, I mean, there is that him going to Italy. I mean, we studied it a little bit in global cinema, but that would have been the golden age of Italian cinema.
Yes, yeah. That's
Um,
exactly what I thought when he said he was going to Italy. I was like,
yeah.
I know about that. Thanks, Adam.
Um, yeah, the other thing is there was something a little meta about it as well, in that
So meta.
in not just in terms of, you know, the archive footage that was used and the different aspect ratio and stuff like that, but I was thinking more in the sense of themes where we're talking about how Rick's character is a bit past it and stuff. I'm not. This is not me saying Leonardo DiCaprio is past it. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's the exact opposite, in fact. But what the point I'm trying to make here is that, you know, you've got DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, who were big titans of 90s and 2000 cinema. Um, and then you've got a bunch of younger cast members who were not known at the time, most of them, but the fact that so many of them have since gone on to star in major
Oh,
projects.
yeah.
Because you've got Margaret Qualley, as I've mentioned. You've got Mikey Madsen, who won Best Actress for Nora literally last was it earlier this year? Maya Hawke, who's gone on to be in Stranger Things and is also the daughter of Uma Thurman,
Yeah.
who's
Madness.
starred in a couple of different Tarantino films. And then you've got Austin Butler, who has been starred in Elvis, and then
That was a huge jump scare, by the way.
and then
When
Sid
Austin Butler popped up on a horse, I was terrified.
and then Sydney Sweeney as well, who's in a bit of hot
Yeah.
water at the moment. But
Well, we won't get into that.
yes,
But she
that's not
has
the time or
been, her
place.
career has risen over the
Yes,
past few years. 100%.
and this was. I mean, I can't remember when season 1 of Euphoria came out, but I'm pretty sure this came out either about the exact same time or just before.
What I found one of the weirdest things I found about this film that I didn't really the narration,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
Barely used in the first half, maybe used once. And then towards the end, much more like when he's in Italy to cover the kind of time jump
yeah,
of 6 months, they do like this whole introductory voiceover bit.
yeah.
And I felt like that was a bit strange. Either consistently use the voiceover or don't have it.
Mm,
If you're not going to use it, I felt like it jarred me a little bit and kind of took me out of it. I was like, oh yeah, there's a voiceover. I forgot that that was part of this.
yeah.
I just felt that was a little bit strange.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's the lack of consistency. Um,
But it does add to the kind of meta nature of it. Bless you. Um, it adds to the meta-ness and it, breaks the fourth wall. And it's a very self-aware film. It knows what it
Yes.
is. Um, Very storybook. Well, it kind of blends the storybook nature because obviously the title being Once Upon a Time
Mm,
in Hollywood, very storybook fairy tale esque. Kind of couple that with, I mean, an incredibly dark real life historical event with the Mansons,
yeah.
and then it's kind of a more hopeful alternate reality. It's such an interesting blend of so many things, and yet somehow it didn't confuse me about what it is. Didn't fully understand what was going on, but it wasn't too confusing in terms of genre and what to.
Yeah, I mean, it is clearly an homage to that era of cinema in the same way that
Mm,
Jackie Brown's an homage to the 70s. Because this is, I mean, it's not quite the 70s, it's 69,
yeah.
but it's not far off. And again, it's this era that Tarantino would have grown up in. I mean, he would have been a child at this point. Um, but it, you know, it is considered to be the go or the end of the golden age, or the first golden age of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it does feel like a love letter to the Western, and I guess a bit of a commentary on how the Western has fallen out of,
Mm.
how the public has fallen out of love with Westerns.
Something I think we need a moment of discussion on because it's the best part of this film
Hmm.
is the friendship between Rick and Cliff.
Yeah,
I love them. The chemistry, again, not romantic, but the
no,
bond between them is beautiful. They have such a mutual respect for each other, even though one is clearly, in terms of social hierarchy, obviously Leonardo DiCaprio is much higher up, being the actor rather than the stuntman,
yeah,
lives in Hollywood, not in the trailer, all of that stuff. But it's even in the film, it says in the one of the uses of narration when they're on their way back from Italy, it describes Cliff as more than a brother and little less than a wife.
yeah. Which I mean made me think. Because I was thinking, I didn't necessarily think it was homoerotic, but I did think it felt like a queer platonic partnership.
Oh, yes, I did.
That's the vibe.
It could certainly be read that way 100%.
Yeah,
I mean, they do everything together. The only thing they don't do is sleep in the same bed. Everything else they do together.
but the thing is,
Cliff flew all the way to Italy for 6 months just to be with him.
yeah, but I don't think there's anything. I mean, I know my. I mean, I'm as guilty of this as anyone else. That my first instinct when faced with that kind of dynamic is, oh, it's romantic. But I don't think it
Mm,
is in this case. I think it is, I
no,
think it's queer platonic in that they are
definitely.
as close as a married couple could be, and they almost depend on each other like a lot of married couples do. But
Yeah,
there's nothing romantic about it, nothing sexual about it. It's purely a platonic thing, but they just can't really live without each other. To the point where like you've got Cliff literally letting himself into Rick's house without Rick even realizing he's let
yeah,
himself in. Like that's how close they are. Like it's almost as if Cliff basically lives at Rick's place, even though he doesn't. You know what I mean?
yeah. He's got full access to Rick's house. And, he drops Rick off at work and then goes to fix the antenna. Like, he's such an integral part of Rick's life.
Yeah.
And then even when he's going to hospital after his insane acid trip, which was hilarious, so funny and so well acted by Brad Pitt, so funny. He's like, "It's okay, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm not gonna die. It's fine. I'll just, come see me tomorrow. Bring me a bagel." And they're so at ease with each other and so comfortable. But I do think you're right. I didn't see anything romantic about it. I mean, check. I'm sure there's probably some fan
Oh,
fiction
probably.
somewhere.
But
Most definitely.
I do think, in another universe where those two main actors were portrayed by the main characters were portrayed by different actors, that maybe it would have felt more homoerotic because the two actors would have played it more homoerotic. But I think in this instance, Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't think there's a homoerotic bone on either of those men's bodies, frankly.
No, no, not
So I don't
really.
think it would have even
If it
occurred to them.
was, I'll tell you what, if, oh my God, I'm blanking on their names, Matt Damon and
Ben
Ben
Affleck,
Affleck, if they'd played them,
yes,
100% would have been filled with homoeroticism, but they didn't. But also that is a version of this film I would like to see. Um, but I do think I loved them together so much and the loyalty they have for each other
yeah,
and the way that Rick sticks his neck out to get Cliff in as his stunt double in one of the earlier bits. That's when someone also says you're very pretty to be a stuntman,
yeah.
and all that stuff when he has the fight with Bruce, I
Oh,
think
is
his
that
name
when
is.
it is? I knew it was at some point.
they say it twice. It's reiterated once when he is about to have that fight with Bruce that gets him kicked off set,
Yeah.
and then again when he's in the car driving to the ranch. So it's reiterated because obviously I will be completely I've never thought of Brad Pitt as particularly attractive
No, not right.
until this film. Until this film.
Yeah.
I watched this and I thought, oh, he's quite a good looking man. Don't
Yeah.
know what it is,
Well, I don't
but
particularly like him, but as a person, but yeah.
no, no. But that was something that I loved so much in this film.
Mm.
Um, and then we have the incredibly violent finale
Oh my God, yeah.
of this film.
I
With
mean,
there's not much violence throughout. There is obviously Cliff gets into some fights, there's all that stuff, but nothing explicitly like don't see loads of blood. No, not really any gore, except for when he punches I think his name's like Clem when he's on the ranch
yeah,
and that guy has stabbed his tire. He punches him quite a few times and there's a lot of blood on his face, but that's kind of it, like
yeah,
violence wise. And then suddenly Austin Butler rocks up and all hell breaks loose.
yes.
And that was insane. I mean, I'm not that sensitive to violence in film and television.
Mm.
I don't really mind it. It's not something I'm very squeamish about, but that was extreme.
It was the bit where the one of the girls gets her head slammed into the wall repeatedly.
Oh,
That's the bit I
oh, I could not
couldn't
do that.
handle.
And when, again, I can't remember which girl it was or what her name was. My bad. When she runs outside to the swimming pool and her face
Oh,
is just,
that's Mikey
I can't
Madsen's
remember.
character.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I can't remember
Yeah.
her name in the film.
No.
Um, but she runs out with the knife, going absolutely insane. And
Yeah.
Austin Butler's character and the other girl just basically getting killed by the dog.
Yeah. Can I just say, sorry, when Mikey Madsen's character runs into the pool and Leonardo DiCaprio gets startled, that delivery of what the fuck is one of my favorite line deliveries I think I've seen in
Incredible.
everything.
So well done. Very odd moment to show like a very slow, calm shot of the radio sinking to the floor. That was so just tangent, just such a huge tangent from the insanity of the fight scene. The fight scene was brutal and violent and absurd, but it was also so funny.
Yeah.
With Brad Pitt being high on acid, the Austin Butler getting his dick bitten by a dog, like it was all just insane in what I in my head view as the most Quentin Tarantino way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mad. Also, the flamethrower coming out. Don't that
I got the
was
callback to that, yeah.
yeah,
I
that
was
was
like
funny.
a bit ridiculous, but like then again, Tarantino is known for his ridiculous finales. Like that's
Well, yeah,
Inglourious
I
Bastards
read.
has quite a famous one.
Oh yeah, well I have to watch it. No, no
I
spoilers.
haven't actually seen the ending, but I know what it is.
Oh,
Or
interesting.
part of the ending. It's to do with alternate history. That's all I'm giving you.
Oh, oh, how
Yes.
interesting. I read somewhere that it described the climax as the ultra-violent finale is pure Tarantino, cathartic, absurd, and emotionally loaded,
Yeah.
which I think that sums it up perfectly. And it turns what could have been like this huge tragedy of obviously the real life historical murder of it all,
Yeah.
um, into like a more fantastical like justice and preservation. And even if you didn't somehow click that this is the Manson family, you know that they're some messed up people
Yes.
about to try and do some messed up things, and you know that they've been stopped from doing that. It's just, it was absolutely hilarious though, and I felt bad laughing at it because of how dark it is in real life,
Mm,
but it was very funny.
yeah. I mean, revenge is a very common theme between Tarantino's films.
Mm.
that often drives a lot of his characters. So,
Pulp Fiction is very revenge based, isn't it? Or
Pulp
am I
Fiction,
making that up?
yes.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
of the
yeah.
plot lines are same with Kill Bill is completely about revenge. That's the whole plot.
Oh, okay.
Um,
But overall, I actually really enjoyed the film.
yeah.
I mean, it was insane, and I don't really fully understand what I watched, but I really enjoyed watching it, whatever it was. Um, so Jackie Brown out
Yes.
of 10, what you giving? What you giving her?
Well, I gave the two of them very similar ratings.
Interesting.
I gave them both 7 point something. I can't remember exactly what. Let me have a look. So Jackie Brown, I gave 7.6, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I gave 7.9. So I enjoyed that one slightly
Ooh,
more because I think I enjoyed the pacing of
interesting.
it more.
Yes, understandable.
Um, and I think I mean, I'm a sucker for a film about films or filmmaking
Yeah,
or fame. Like I've
yeah.
got an entire letterboxd playlist dedicated to it that has like, I mean, it's a long list. It's got a lot of movies in it. 170 films in it
Okay.
that kind of touch on fame or fortune or various like,
Always a good film. Always a
yeah.
good film when it does that.
But I did enjoy Well, I enjoyed the second half of Jackie Brown. The first
Yeah.
half, I didn't fully have my interest until it did. So,
I would give Jackie Brown probably a 6, solid 6. Good pacing threw me off, ruined some of it for me. But I would probably give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a good 8, 8.2. Really enjoyed it.
mhm.
Beautiful piece of filmmaking. Glad that that is one of my introductions to Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah,
But overall, a very good week for film for me, watching those
yeah,
two.
yeah. I think that's what we've got time for today.
It is.
So we will see you next time when we discuss two more films.
Yes, thank you very much for listening. See ya.
Bye.